always tell when a streak's going to come to an end. You win a couple of games, you probably shouldn't.
There are teams out there that could use that quality of playoff goaltending. All right, Ray, you ready to do this?
Yep, let's go.
Powered by Red Media in partnership with TSN, it is Season 7 of the Ray and Drake's Hockey Podcast, a playoff edition presented by our title sponsor, Tim Hortons. The Tim's NHL Hockey Challenge is back with the Stanley Cup Playoffs edition only in the Tim Hortons app. You play for free with a chance to win daily prizes for picking players who you think will score. Plus, there is a grand prize of $5,000. Canadians, you can also try and keep a 7-day streak alive. And if you do that, you win free coffee or tea for a week. And Ray, as we've done the podcast now in Season 7, for anybody who tags along with us on our YouTube channel, we get to recognize occasionally the hotel rooms that you stay. Like Boston comes to mind, right? You know, you've got the wallpaper in Boston. Automatically, we know that, you know, you're doing a Bruins series or a Bruins game. That has a Chicago look to it for some reason. Still in Chicago, huh?
Yeah. Who wouldn't want to stay in Chicago in a hotel at the airport for extra days?
Your bosses?
Yeah, good point. We're here in Chicago, Riley and I, for he's looking at a couple of schools to go to in the fall, and flying back yesterday. And the incoming plane got struck by lightning somewhere.
Ooh.
And that doesn't sound like a good thing, but you know, the people got off the plane.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I was like, oh, everything's fine. We were standing at the gate and they're like, 20-minute delay. And in Chicago, you're like, yeah, 20 minutes. That's kind of standard. And then it was another 30, then another 30. And then eventually we found out it was a lightning strike. So we stayed overnight in the hotel again. And I get home tonight at 6 local time.
Pacific time,
Pacific. And then I leave tomorrow morning at 9 for Montreal. So I get to walk in, dump out my suitcase, take a couple of new things, and head to Montreal. So, hey, everybody good? Yeah, I got to go. Bye. So
yeah, I'm just thinking automatically the old Ray, and we're going a decade back or longer. There'd be a different mindset about this whole experience to this point. You're kind of zen about it. I appreciate it.
Can't do anything now. And so I think for sure I would have had a snap show for sure at somewhere. The other thing is and you know, like, you don't get to spend as much time with Mason as you used to, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And so, like, this is 2 days with Riley and his nonsense. And man, he says some funny things, man. You know, and he's just finished his first year of college or university at Penn State, and he's moving to a new school. And man, they change a lot in 1 year, and so it's been great. I mean, it's been the best part of the trip, really.
Yeah, I mean, a couple of things, some different sides of it too, from a parent perspective, especially when your kid goes away, is you recognize they've matured, you know, because they've been away from home. It's a completely different environment. You don't have a choice. And then you're reminded, especially in the environment you're in with Riley for the last couple of days, how much they eat. Like they're constantly hungry.
That is. Yeah, I mean, we did nothing but do that yesterday. The other thing is, like, he'll say, like, you know, oh, come on, buddy, what are we doing here? He's called me buddy or Razo. Razo is another one. Oh yeah. And so the kids think that, you know. So I've really enjoyed it. That's been by far the best part of this.
Yeah, Mason will reference me as Darren every once in a while to his buddies. It kind of like, because he knows it annoys me. Right? Like, I mean, you know, don't call you don't have to call me father or dad.
I never once called my dad Ed.
No,
not once.
You'd get a backhander if you were in swinging distance. I know it does. Like it's not being disrespectful. It just kind of has that connotation to it.
That's it. One generation, how a change is. Like, there's just not a chance.
Well, it's been a busy week in the hockey world.
Mm.
And again, a lot of it has to do with what's not going on with the Stanley Cup playoffs. So let's get to it, Ray. In the headlines brought to us by the Canadian Brew House. Hey, real fans, you know the move. You get to the Canadian Brew House as early as you can. Happy hour at the Canadian Brew House runs Monday to Saturday, 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. And everything starts at around $3.99. You can't beat it. Skip the couch and hit the Canadian Brew House. This hockey season, their house is your arena. And some interesting things developing here in round two, which we'll get to, right? The push of the Carolina Hurricanes, that's a big storyline developing. Colorado going into their action remains unbeaten to this point of round two and through, of course, the sweep in the first round. But let's go back to earlier in the week. Tuesday, the NHL Draft Lottery, it feels like it gutted one side of Canada and then renewed hope on the other side, because the Toronto Maple Leafs now lay claim to the first pick overall. But first, your reaction when the 12 ball was pulled and it was evident Toronto had won the lottery.
Well, I guess I like watching as the numbers would change. Like the percentages would change with each ball that came out of there. And there was one time Vancouver went from 18 to 25, I think. And then, it went the other way. And I didn't quite realize, because we didn't have the sound on where we were watching it. And I didn't realize that initially that the 12 was Toronto's golden ticket. So I didn't realize that. And then, they flashed up Sundin's mug, and I was like, oh, that's Toronto. And so like that was like, just, it's shocking. I do think, I know they, the reason there is a draft, of course, is to equalize talent as best as possible, to keep, right? Because if there was you become eligible and then it's the highest bidder, like a total, like soccer, for example.
Yeah.
It would become, you'd run into all the financial madness that they have. So I get why there's the lottery. I don't think the odds are quite right, in my opinion. I don't think you should be able to move from 10 to 1. That's too far. In particular,
it's a big gap. I would agree. Yeah.
In the parity of the league, like you can say, oh, look, that team's only a few points worse and they're number 10, but 10 is a big jump. I would prefer if it's the bottom 5, and the bottom 5 are in the lottery for the first pick.
Yeah.
And then the odds would be calculated inside of those 5. And then once you get from 2 on, then you revert to this other. I know they're trying to simplify it, and I don't have any problem with the process per se. I just don't think the odds are right. But it was stunning. And for San Jose to walk into that 2 pick again,
incredible.
But just think of last year. San Jose should have, in my opinion, by odd, if it's the top 5, they get the first. They're probably going to get the first pick. They would have had Matthew Schaefer. They wouldn't have been drafting number 2 this year,
right,
if they had Matthew Schaefer. So now San Jose jumps up, and then instantly it explodes the market for draft gurus and mock drafts, and what are they going to do? And I guess that drives interest for the next, I guess 7 weeks, right? 6-7 weeks.
But the reaction was visceral when that 12 ball was pulled, and it was again evident the Toronto Maple Leafs had secured the first pick overall. Vancouver, of course, going in, you're getting a good player, 1, 2, or 3, but 3 isn't 1, and maybe the quality of the player, time will tell. 3 could be better than 1. We have no idea, but this, Ray. I mean, there's a marketability behind the first pick
100%.
And the reaction in Vancouver and in Winnipeg and in Calgary, it was visceral. And some of that has to do, of course, with, oh my God, the Toronto Maple Leafs. get the
Right.
like the reaction wouldn't have been the same. San Jose people that, oh geez, Mike Greer is sure lucky, just what they need. But in this case, Toronto to make that climb, the reaction was, as I said, it was visceral.
Yeah, I mean, had it been somebody else, I don't think it would have felt quite the same in those other
No,
markets. It's the fact is Toronto is not beloved outside of Toronto. And
fair. Yeah.
right? Like, and so they have such a massive following, um and they're not, they didn't have a very positive year, and they they make the here's the other thing. They make the playoffs. What is it? They made 8 years in a row,
Yep.
and then they miss, and then they get the lottery pick. And it kind of
Yeah.
stinks. I mean, if you're another team, kind of stinks. And so Toronto now sits there and they can take McKenna, or they can take whomever they feel is, it feels like McKenna, but they could take whomever they feel is in that pick.
Yeah.
Um, I believe they have another first, correct? Do I have that
Uh,
right or no? No, that was if
no.
there was some trade thing. I was having a tough time following that.
Yeah, involving Philly and Boston 27-28 and all of
Yeah,
that. It's a
yeah.
convoluted, complex. The
But
league
this
needs to
this
manage it moving forward. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I mean, but this changes their certainly their view, it gives, well, to your point, it gives the fans that have muddled through a long year, it gives them hope again. They're like, yeah, we got number 3. They already had 5, and 5 would have been fine too, because there's
Sure.
about
Yeah.
10 players that are relatively interchangeable, I
Mm.
think,
Yeah.
in this draft. And so those teams are all going to be relatively happy, but man, it would have been nice to have one. Always. Nobody ever says, hey, it would have been nice to have 2. But the team that got kicked in the pants the worst is Vancouver, because they couldn't have dropped any further. And did you see that thing? They've been in the lottery 7 times. They've never moved up. Not once.
Remarkable.
Like that's
No.
yeah, that's something. They need to do an exorcism or something or other, because that goes back to the very first lottery when they came into the league with Buffalo. Have you seen that
Mhm.
old footage? All those
Yes.
guys sitting
Yes.
around the
Yeah.
boardroom and they spin that rickety wheel, and Clarence is the president, and he clearly doesn't have his glasses on, and he goes, number 1, Vancouver gets the pick, and
Yeah.
some guy in the back goes, could you check that out again? I think that's 11. And 11 was Buffalo. And so they lost the very first lottery too. So yeah.
Okay, well, put your GM hat on, and I guess that hat belongs to John Chayka now, general manager for the Toronto Maple Leafs. So Chris Johnson, as we talked about earlier in the week, wrote the piece in The Athletic where the Auston Matthews camp, I guess, is contemplating their level of commitment to next season, with Auston having 2 years remaining on his contract. So we know that Chayka and Matt Sundin will meet with Craig Berube. I think it's Saturday. All right, just to get that process going. And then you have to, I mean, a trip to Arizona's got to be right around the corner for Chayka. Find out what the mindset is of Auston Matthews beyond the reporting. But as CJ identified in his piece, like, he may not get a commitment from Matthews until mid-July, maybe later, once he sees, okay, well, is the roster improved or isn't it improved? If you're John Chayka, Ray, do you not go into that meeting, let's assume it's in the days ahead here as early next week, and go, yeah, that's not going to cut it, man. Like, you're under contract here for 2 years. Like, if you're not committed, maybe that's our answer. Do you want to start the process of us considering trade now, because we've got the first overall pick? Maybe there's a fit where we can get another top 5 pick in. We need an answer from you as captain of the Toronto Maple Leafs. Wouldn't that be a fair approach?
Uh, sure. I mean, my first thing that I would look at is as I'm sitting at my desk, I'd look at Vancouver and realize that Vancouver spent dollars and resources and time and money to try and make Quinn Hughes happy,
No.
and it didn't work. And now you still have players that you've spent money and commitment and time, and you've charted a course of your team, and he's gone. And that clearly changes your path, right? Like Quinn's an amazing player and it changes your path. And, Auston has not had 2 very good years by his standard. And,
Right.
but if he leaves, if they have to trade him, that changes their path. So I would be really cautious about he gives you a list of 6 things and you go out and try and check those 6 boxes, and it doesn't mean anything.
No.
It doesn't mean anything because you get to the end of the boxes and I don't know, say there's another year where it goes sideways. You don't really have 2 years. You've got 1 year.
Agreed.
That's all you've got. And it's the same in Edmonton with Connor McDavid, is that they don't really have 2 years. They've got 1 year.
Yeah.
And the fact of the matter, whether people like it or not, the players at that level really drive what's going to happen. They do. Not 90% of the 95% of the league doesn't have that power.
Right.
Doesn't have that impact. But if I'm Chayka, I'm certainly, you're trying to get what Matthews' mindset is. And when he says the team to improve, what exactly does he mean? If they draft Gavin McKenna, he's not getting 100 points next year,
No.
right? He's coming into the league and you're super excited. Whatever he puts on the board is 1 year of experience in his belt. And that's going to make him a better player if he comes and plays next year, and that's the guy you draft. But I would find it hard to believe they could make enough significant change in the next 2 months to say, oh yeah, now we're a Stanley Cup contender. I think Chayka's biggest challenge right now is people saying, oh yeah, now he's got the job. Let's see what he's going to do. But what he's going to do might not take 3 weeks. It might take 8 months.
Yeah.
Like it generally will not go as fast as he would like to make it. He might have, well, I'm sure he does, have a blueprint of what he wants to get done.
Yeah.
It's just like the new general manager that's coming into Vancouver. I'm sure he's got a blueprint in what he wants to get done. It doesn't mean it's going to happen in the order or the time frame that you're.
No.
And then you get the pre-worriers that are all over the media, that because fans can pre-worry all they want. That's part of being a fan. But all through the media, the constant rollover of, yeah, but if this happens, and what if this happens, and what. Bill Burr's one of my favorite comedians. He goes, everything's going to be fine. And if it's not fine, I'm going to worry about it then. Because you can't do anything about it now. He's going to go see Matthews. Matthews is going to tell him whatever he's going to tell him. Then you've got 2 paths probably. And then you're going to move to the next stage of that. It's not an enviable position for Chayka. He's under the spotlight immediately. But this is not as easy a fix, I don't think, as some people would like to believe. Go get a defenseman. We talked about this. Go get a defenseman. Where? Make a trade. Who? Like it's nowhere near as easy and straightforward as people might think.
Agreed. Okay, back to the ice and back to the Stanley Cup playoffs. We're getting ready for Game 2 tonight in Buffalo. That's the Sabres and the Montreal Canadiens. Game 1 went Buffalo's way in a lot of different directions, right? The story going into that series, the Buffalo power play wasn't effective. Would they be able to get to Jakub Dobish? All of it, right? And Buffalo did that. They established their rush game pretty early, and it looked at times like Montreal was just flummoxed by it. They just, and Marty St. Louis after the game said, look, I need to rewatch the game. I feel like there's some areas that we can tighten up and change and adjust. And we'll do that. We'll make adjustments. What did you see in that opening game that would favor one side versus the other? I mean, do you feel like Montreal is a problem now just based on what we saw in Game 1?
If they play the same way they did in Game 1, which I don't think they will do, then they'd have a problem. The adjustment, Marty's standing right in the middle of it. When he watches the video, he's immediately gonna pick up. I think Buffalo had, I want to say they had like 11 rush chances.
He was up there.
They had 5 man advantage breaks for sure. And what he's going to look at and go is, why are our defense flat-footed, pinching up in the zone without support in the middle of the ice.
Yeah.
And that, for a team like Montreal, is really easy to fix. For any team, when you're one of the 8 final teams, that means you can adjust and you can get to a problem. I think there was without question, a lingering, almost like a hangover, a heaviness to them after beating Tampa. It's a completely different series. There is nothing the same in the way
No.
Buffalo and Tampa play. And I do think that Montreal wasn't sharp early. I mean, I don't think we need many more examples to go. Lane Hutson's a pretty terrific player. His first couple of shifts were a train wreck. He took a
Yeah.
penalty. He fell down in the middle of the ice, that led to the first man advantage break, and the first goal. Like, that's not Lane Hutson. That's not going to happen again. It just won't. So okay, so they're better. Their penalty kill got a look at Buffalo's power play, and now they can adjust. I will say this about Buffalo's power play. Now, I can't explain at the end of the regular season why it was so bad, because you're playing multiple opponents,
Right.
right? Somewhere in there, you probably should get a good matchup. When you play one team over and over and over again, like you do in a playoff series, sometimes their penalty killing adjustments are better than your power play adjustments.
Mm.
But when you go to a new series, what's happened in the past literally does not matter, because none of those players you're playing against are in the series. They're all
Mhm.
gone. And so there might be something that becomes a better matchup for them in against Montreal. Now, we'll see in game 2. It doesn't mean Buffalo's power play problems are all gone, but it was interesting that Buffalo's first power play still stinks. It's
Yeah.
I can't believe it's as bad as it is. I think they're set up wrong, but um, uh, the second power play group, they scored both the goals,
Yeah.
right? And if I look at it, I'm like, guys, on the first group, I showed them the video of the second. I go, did you see one set of 3 or 4 nice passes? No. They got
Yeah.
it into the middle, they shot it, they retrieved it, and they went at it again. And so I don't see anyone with this great advantage. I picked Buffalo to win this series in 7. I think
Mhm.
it's going to be really close, but Montreal they weren't sharp. They were a little bit behind in the first game, and I don't think that'll happen again tonight.
We saw more spark from Demidov. That's the way it looked to me in that first game, but he still didn't score, right? He wasn't able to generate. There was an assist there.
Yep.
What would you do with him? Would you be encouraged by what you saw in game 1? Enough so that maybe you give him a look, up a notch in the lineup, or do you just let that line continue to find their way? Because they haven't been bad, don't get me wrong, but you need Demidov to get going. You need Caulfield to get going. The goal scorers need to find a way to produce
Oh,
here.
well, if they don't, it's like any other team. Your
Yeah.
best guys, they don't produce, you're done. It's like, it's one thing to say, oh, you've got a complete game, and oh, he's doing all
Yeah.
the little things right. That's nice. I need you to do the big things, right? At this time of year, that's why
Fair.
forever in I think a lot of people's opinion, certainly mine, there's nothing harder to do in the NHL than score goals.
Hmm.
It is. I don't think, like, you hear all the time, oh yeah, but he's getting chances. Yeah, so what? So does everybody else. The
Hmm.
hardest thing to do is to score. Cole Caulfield he scored 51 goals in the regular season. He's one of the best shooters in the game. And he's got 1 power play goal in the
Yeah.
playoffs and no regular strength goals. Demidov's been on the outside of it. Like, I did like his game.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
do. The one thing I see with Marty and the way that he coaches is he still coaches, like, in my mind, he views the game always through the player's lens. And he makes more adjustments than almost any other coach, I think. He's not shy to move a winger here or a winger there. Like, he took Gallagher out in game 1, because he felt that um, Veleno's speed and maybe
Hmm.
size, I don't think size so much, but skating would be more helpful against Buffalo than it would have been against Tampa. And in doing that, he broke up Texier, Bolduc, and Doc. Now
Hmm.
maybe he goes back to that line, in, right? Like maybe he does.
Yeah. Yeah.
And my point is, I don't think Demidov is cemented in a place in the lineup.
Yeah.
And
What
so
about
the I guess the other thing is it'll depend, if you move one guy, how many chairs does that move around?
right? Yeah. Yeah. What do you think of Dobish? I thought that the only bad goal was the Greenway goal. Other than
Yeah.
that, I mean, he was under pressure a lot. But I don't think you can pin that loss on him, can you? Other than that goal.
No, I mean I wouldn't.
Mm.
He probably, well, not probably, he should have stopped Greenway's shot. He's actually got a really good glove too. Like he's shown to have an excellent glove.
Yeah.
It deflected off his glove and he's in the net. By the way, Greenway played the best game I've seen him play in a long time. He's had
Mhm.
brutal health this year,
Yeah.
hernia surgery, then another hernia surgery. Like it's just a mess. He was a beast in that first game,
He
and
was.
so I thought Dobish was okay. He'll need to be better than that. I
Mm.
think he was like Drake's. I would say he was a lot like his team. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
he beat Vasilevsky toe to toe
He
in Game
did.
7. So we had a little, maybe he's 5% off, not quite as sharp. One other guy I got to mention is that little bugger Zach Benson. He is
I
just,
love Zach Benson.
oh my god. Well,
He's
here's the
fun to
thing.
watch.
He's a colossal pain in the ass. That's clear, right? I think he's got Brad Marchand in him, and one of the
Mm.
reasons, and it's easy to have the younger Marchand be a pain in you, but you've got to combine it with ability.
Yeah.
He's an excellent passer, excellent, creative, hard, retrieves pucks. There's not a spot on the ice he's not willing to go to, and he's clearly a character. Like you, I picture him like those hard rubber balls that you had when you were a kid that you'd bounce on the wall or whatever,
Yeah.
and they'd bounce back. I picture that's what he's like when he comes into the locker room in the morning. And he's bouncing around, and guys just want to have their coffee and wake up. And I picture him just like bing, 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 talk, 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 talk. I see a lot that is very familiar. Like I can't tell you how many times I would get, would you just stop? Just stop. And I
Yeah.
picture that in him, and you're not gonna make him go away if you're the other team. You're
No.
not gonna make him go away. I just think him and Josh Dolan together are an excellent pair. Excellent
Yeah.
pair of wingers together. They'll drive teams bananas. They were quiet the first 2 games against Boston, and since
Mhm.
then, I think they've gotten better almost every night.
Okay, let's shift over to the other series in the East, and that, of course, Carolina and Philadelphia. Carolina could go 8-0
Yep.
after beating the Flyers in Game 3 of that series last night. That Carolina penalty kill rate just continues to be one of their major strengths and factors. I would like, but they have 5-on-3 for what, a minute 15 late
Yeah.
in the second period. And I think the Flyers had one shot on net. I mean, that's just a small part of the strength of the Carolina
Mm.
Hurricanes in this series, but they've got Philadelphia flustered a little bit, right? Like we saw the exchange last
Mm.
night, talking and Zegras at the bench. I mean, on and on and on it goes. It does look like a top Stanley Cup contending team that gets stronger with sort of every playoff challenge.
I think their penalty kill and their 5-on-5 game are exactly the same, except you take one guy off. Like it is pressure everywhere. And sometimes they'll have to settle and go, okay, we can't pressure there. But the first opportunity to pressure is like letting the dam break because it is in every spot. And as I made my living really on the power play, and the enemy of any power play is pressure.
Mm.
And it's not predictable pressure. Like if I'm on the half wall and I know the pressure's coming from the D all the time, I can sense that. That doesn't happen for Carolina. Like he'll pressure
Yeah.
and force that guy to put it back to the point, okay, off the half wall. But he doesn't stop. Like, he continues on. So the D can't even come back with it.
Yeah.
And so I think we saw, like, by the way, I don't know what it is in Philly, but this is 5 years in a row. The highest their power play has been in the regular season is 30th.
Mhm.
Like it's unfathomable it could be that bad for this long. So Carolina's pressured them out of any comfort in their game. Philly's got, they're banged up for sure, right? Like, I think
Yeah.
they miss Owen Tippett a lot in this series. Tocchet calls him a home run hitter, and he goes, "You take a home run hitter away, and you lose pop," and they do without him in the lineup. But I think Carolina's just a little bit better in a lot of areas, and that adds their way up. Like, I'll give you an example. So the uh, Chatfield scores a shorthanded goal. Like, what are the chances of that happening? But it's like Martinook makes this diving play, like they're shorthanded, but it's all about pressure to the puck. And he still lays out to poke the puck away. And that opens up Stahl to make the pass to Chatfield. Like, the energy and relentlessness of their play, but they don't run around, like they're not out of position. They're a well-oiled machine. Rod Brind'Amour, I've said it many, many times, and lots of people do. Rod is a tremendous coach, and they have a roster where everybody knows what the hell they're doing and when they should do it. And they go get players that fit that system. Carrier, Robinson, Martinook, they look like they're
Yeah,
just
all
different
good.
guys, but they're all the same. They all get 12 goals. They're all big and fast and heavy. Like, they get players to fit. And one other thing in that series, Freddie Andersen has been unreal in the playoffs. Unreal. He's had he got a couple of posts last night. Hey, goalies will love that. I think it's important for Freddie Andersen that the series finishes quickly. He's never been the most durable guy.
Yeah, get him
Never has
rest.
been. He more than almost anybody else, even though it might not seem like it, would benefit from a rest. But wouldn't it be something if you get through the first 2 rounds in 8 games, or even if it's
Crazy.
9 games?
Yeah.
Like what a bonus, a benefit that would be to Carolina. They've been tremendous. And here's the other thing I guess I'll say about Philly: they're with house money now.
Yeah.
It was a win to get into the playoffs, a bigger win to get to the second round. At times they look young, they look overmatched a little bit. This is not a finished product for Philly.
No.
This is just their first step.
We'll move on, but what did you think of the Taylor Hall hit on Travis Sanheim? And Sanheim, after the game, obviously called it a dirty hit. He said that he was vulnerable, he was falling, and Hall, who clearly committed to the check, drove his hands through his head. Now, nothing is coming from the Department of Player Safety, and they reduced it from a major down to a minor penalty. Is that what you saw, or is this a hit that should be facing supplemental discipline?
No, my thought was right as Hall was beginning to deliver the hit, Sanheim started to fall. And in real time, it's really hard to stop. I don't know that he needed to finish it with that force. So I don't think Sanheim had a problem that he got hit. I think it was with the force that he got hit with. And
Yes.
that's the part that I didn't like. But unless they change the rule book, you're allowed to hit hard. And I found it unfortunate. I didn't like the force, but I don't like because of Sanheim already on his way down at that point. But I don't think it was delivered with intent to hurt.
Right.
And I don't know that there was another avenue for Hall to take other than to not finish it as forcefully as he did.
All right, let's go to California. Plenty of life left in the Ducks and that series against the Vegas Golden Knights. It's now even at 1. I mean, obviously, when you were in a split, um, that's an accomplishment, especially for a young, upstart team like the Anaheim Ducks against a really good team that's got some swagger behind it in the Vegas Golden Knights. So just a crucial win to even the series
Yeah.
for Anaheim. And what do you see going into Game 3 tonight? Any edge there?
I think Anaheim has looked better for longer in the 2 games than Vegas has. Their
Okay.
their speed is noticeable. Um, Certainly the guile and experience of Vegas is noteworthy, but it, there's a pace that Anaheim can play at. If they can get the game to that pace, I think it's real trouble for Vegas.
Yeah.
I think that will tell the tale of the series. If Vegas can hold the puck off their forecheck and cycle it and hold it and create some zone time so there's less
Mhm.
up and down the ice, that's a big win for Vegas because they're not going to skate with Anaheim. They're
Right.
they're just not. Um, don't forget the other night, like it was 3-1, and Vegas scored a who cares goal with like 5 seconds
Yeah.
left,
Yeah.
right? That close to Dostel's shutout. There is an edge here to Anaheim. I don't think playing on the road bothers Vegas at all. Like
No.
I don't think it matters at all. But I do think the key spot is if they can control the puck in the offensive zone. I think that kills Anaheim's speed more
Mhm.
than anything. When we talk about turnovers, so here's the example. You're below the goal line, you try a hope pass out into the slot. If you're Vegas, it gets picked off. You've just fed their transition.
Right.
And and so you're trying to score, so you want the puck from below the goal line to in front of the goal line. But that's a position they've got to be careful in. Because if they turn it over, they're never catching Anaheim up the ice.
All right, Colorado and Minnesota. Colorado in mini on Saturday night. The Avalanche also unbeaten to this point in the Stanley Cup
Yep.
playoffs. And I mean, Colorado is always dangerous. We know that. But there were stretches in the second half, maybe even in the first round, where Nathan MacKinnon just didn't seem to have the same pop, right? Like be it skating, the physicality, all of that, and that's probably unfair. But I mean, he's certainly come online, and maybe the game the other night was his best. Like, he runs over Quinn Hughes. I mean, there was just more of the complete package that we're accustomed to seeing in the superstar that Nate MacKinnon is.
Now, I don't know this, but this to me is more experience than anything else. He's got 3 points 3 games in a row.
Yeah,
There are times when it seemed in the past that McKinnon had the motor at 100% of the time.
yeah,
Don't need to do that anymore. Their team is too good.
interesting.
So in the series against LA, and it felt to me like it was like a slow boil. Like it was good enough, it was okay. They were winning,
Yeah.
and he didn't have to put the pin down. And game 1 was that I don't know what that was. And so they get into game 2, and it felt like McKinnon, to me, as I was watching, that he said, "Okay, I got to put the pin down here. Like
Hmm.
this is 100% night." Not that that's maybe the wrong way to put it. It's an unfair way to put it. Like I need to be I'm engaged. Not that I need to be, because he is. These guys always are at this time of
Yeah,
year. Who's
yeah,
not? If they're not engaged, they're playing golf. But it's like I I saw something different in the way that he went about his business, and I think the great players can do that. And as they get more experienced, there are certain times when they really have to pin it, and we saw
yeah,
that from McKinnon. They look really, really strong, and Minnesota looked a little bit in disarray the other night.
yeah.
I wouldn't have switched goalies after the first game. Volstad had been excellent for them, so they switched to Gustafson.
Hmm.
Now what do you do?
Mm.
right? Like I would have stayed with Volstead. You had only lost on the road. Doesn't matter if you lost 27-2. It's still a loss on the road. Game 3 becomes the pivotal one, and now you've got a question in net. And I wouldn't have done that. They do miss Brodin. They do miss Eriksson Ek. They miss those guys greatly against Colorado.
Yeah, but it does feel, look, I mean, again, this series could go the distance, right? I mean, we know enough of the capabilities of the Minnesota Wild here. You know, I mean, we're not going to disrespect them in that sense, but they can try as hard as they want. If Colorado is online and all cylinders are firing, that could be just the reality of the opposition that the Avs are at this point. All right, well,
and you can't ignore that those guys are missing.
Yeah,
right. Like, you know, Minnesota could kick it up to their best gear, and if they're not available or at 90% even, then they're just not the same team.
All right, those are your headlines. Thank you to the Canadian Brewhouse. Of course, we'll have a whole lot more to chew on coming up in the next edition of the Rain Dregs Hockey Podcast. It feels like Tim Hortons has always been part of my routine, certainly as a dad, you know, as a coach, or taking my kids to the early morning hockeys. Had to go through the drive-thru and get my cup of coffee and get Timbits for the kids. Can I get a medium coffee with milk, please? Then even driving into studio now at TSN, if I don't go through the drive-thru, get my medium coffee with milk, I feel like my routine has been interrupted.
Here's your coffee.
Thank you.
Right there, guys.
You too. Only way to start a day. We have to shift over to the Tim's Hockey Challenge, and it has been a grind. We've got Chris Sabunia, who had a brief vacation, a little bit of family time for the Zuby.
Boy, Zuby.
He's back, he's refreshed, he's ready to roll and give us nothing but good news in the Tim's Hockey Challenge. Zub.
Well, wife time. The kids didn't come. That's why it was a very short. It was a short getaway, including some work. So it was one of those classic. I got to work. I'm going to a lovely location. Can I find a way to bring the wife along? So that's what we did. So it was lovely. Although it was warmer in Kelowna than it was in Bermuda. They actually had better weather here, but the scenery,
fabulous, right?
Not quite the same. So the Tim's playoff hockey challenge. We continue to. I don't know. Well, we made some gains here. We've finally all on the board and moving forward. I had a 2-banger on the night of the Oilers elimination, so that's put me into first place. So just marginally though. Now I've gone 3 for 15. Ray got one on Monday, which nobody else achieved. Who did you hit with on Monday?
With about 4 seconds left, Nichushkin into the empty net.
Yes.
I was quite excited about that.
Well, bet you were.
If they count in the Rocket Richard race, they certainly count in the Tim's Hockey Challenge.
Yes. Good point.
So Ray is in second place. He's got 2 for 15. Ray's 1 for 15, and Shager with that goose egg. So we know Shager's 0 for 15. But Dregs, you said I'll give the floor to you first. You said you feel good about your picks tonight.
I do. I better. I mean, I got the big snowflake. I got iced out on Tuesday, and I'm trying to think who I went with. I went with Marner in the first bucket. Why wouldn't I? And then I feel like was Zach Benson in the second bucket?
No chance.
I feel like no.
If he was, I would have.
I would have taken.
If he is, I missed him.
Seeing him.
Shoot.
I'm going to find out because I had this written down and I've left my paper in the background, but I feel pretty strongly here. So here we go. I've got Marner, Lane Hutson in the second bucket. I feel like he's going to totally redeem himself in game 2. And then Mallinston.
Oh, you know what? My favorite pick that I have today is in the third bucket.
Okay.
And that's Matthias Samuelsson.
13
goals in the regular season, couple in the playoffs. You watch the big boy. He's not as good. He's not as good a cross-checker as his dad. Who was Oh, I hated playing against him. What a
Did you?
miserable. Oh, and he was always barking. So I used to call him Marmaduke. And you remember the big dog,
Yeah,
right?
big Great
And
Dane, big Marmaduke.
he'd be yelling from the bed. Blah, 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 blah. You could never understand him. But you'd get around the net and I'd be like, oh boy.
Oh, that's
outstanding. I got a little bit of duplication with you guys because I've got Samuelson in the third bucket as well. I love that pick. I got Marner in the first. So in the middle there, I got John Carlson. They give you these offensive defensemen, offensive defensemen to choose from against some depth forwards. So I'm leaning into the D-men. So I got John Carlson in the second pick.
I don't love my picks, but I think I'm going to get 1 for 3 again, and which will put me miles ahead of Rashog, which is just such an enjoyable thing week after week for him to put into the chat. Oh, I got 0 again.
And he has to check it. Oh, hang on, let me check.
Good point.
Oh, shocking, another 0.
Yeah.
All right, Zuby. Get some rest, buddy.
Yeah.
All right, thanks, there's Zuby. Chris Sabuna joining us on the Tim's Hockey Challenge playoff edition, by the way. I'm hoping, Ray, that everything goes your way, that everything is good travel-wise. You get out of Chicago, you get back to Vancouver, you've got a brief window of family time. I mean, assuming Cammie's home. Is Cammie home?
She is home. And of course, I'm home with Riley, so everybody's back in the house, which will be awesome. I'll get in at 6:30. Without question, Luca, our 2-year-old grandson, will want to play hockey. Oh, my God. It is. So little hockey game run when you get in the house, then throw a bunch of crap in the washing machine and turn around and repack it. So it'll be short. I'm looking forward to getting home, though. And then I am really looking forward to going to, in my opinion, the best place to watch the game. And that's a playoff game in Montreal on Sunday and Tuesday for games 3 and 4.
And honorable mention Buffalo, because they put on quite a show the other night too. Those two buildings, those two cities, man, it's been so long in Buffalo. I was going to say they're built for hockey in the postseason, but that hasn't been real in Buffalo for a long time.
I guess I would say the reason for me, Montreal's the best. That goes back to being a kid and watching the Forum on Saturday night on TV. It was when it was the only game we got. And then I got to play my third game there. And I scored my first goal there, and I just loved playing in Montreal. It just always felt different, and so I'm really looking forward to going up there and watching the game.
All right, buddy. Well, safe travels back home to Vancouver, and then cross country again back to Montreal. We'll be watching and checking in on the weekend.
Yeah, we'll have a great weekend, everybody. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you Monday or Tuesday of next week.
You bet. And thank you to our sponsors who continue to support the Ray and Dregs podcast. Our title sponsor, Tim Hortons, thank you. And thank you to the Canadian Brewhouse. Enjoy the weekend, the playoffs, and stay safe, everybody.